Hi, my name's Alistair Lindsay, and I'm doing the audio for RimWorld. Um, and I thought I might quickly show you how I got the guitar sound. This morning's my first day um, actually working on the game. I started off by working on the trailer just before the Kickstarter campaign, and I'm actually starting work on the game today, so I'm really excited about that. And the first thing I'm doing is making a little sting, what I call just a short piece of music that's going to play when the game actually starts. And the sound that I've got for this is this, which if you know the trailer video, you might recognise it. So it's just a chord played on one of my guitars, and it's going through some effects. Let me just show you the guitar I used. I've had this guitar a really long time. I've had it since I was about 19 years old. And it's kind of, I don't know if you can see, but it's kind of a bit old, and the paint's cracking and stuff. I had a friend of mine called Colin Fulton, who lives not far away from me, overhaul this guitar a few years ago, and he replaced the pickups. And the pickups that are in this now are actually handmade by a company called Bare Knuckles Pickups in the UK. And every single one of these poles in each pickup is like individually hand wound, I believe. I think they're hand wound. But anyway, they just sound incredible. And other than that, it's a Shadow as the headstock. It's a Shadow guitar. I think they only made this guitar, and this is one of the really early ones, which was built in Germany. And the thing I really like about it is that the neck on it is really narrow, so it's great for speed, but it's also got a lovely tone to it. Anyway, so I th I think that chord was an A minor or something. It's probably something like that. In fact, if we listen to it on its own, it's a straight A minor. There we go. So, very quickly, these are the effects that I used. So that's the guitar in the raw. This is it with the effects on it. So as you can see, I stuck some EQ on it. In fact, let's turn these on one by one. Okay, so the first thing I did, EQ, yeah, rolled off some of the bottom, rolled off some of the top, and gave it a little dip at 2 kilohertz. Okay, so next, delay, an echo effect, and this is a computer model of an analog guitar pedal. It does a really good job. So it just gives it that little kind of surf guitar quality that I was kind of looking for, because actually the inspiration for this was I was trying to give the trailer music a slight kind of Western feel, and of course Ennio Morricone famously used guitars in some of his Wild West movie themes to great effect. But I didn't just want to copy that exact sound, so I did my own version of it, and there's a little bit of surf guitars crept in there as well, which I think is kind of cool. So the next thing, Space Designer. This is a Reverb plugin which is very good at simulating real acoustic spaces. And in this case, I've gone for a plate echo, which plate reverb. So it's basically modelling a big steel plate and feeding some of the guitar signal through that, which if you've never tried doing that, you probably think sounds crazy. But before digital reverbs were invented, studios had two choices. They could either put a speaker in a special empty room, which was called a reverb room or echo chamber, and sometimes studios didn't have one of those, so they used the stairwell in the office block that they were situated in. Either way, you'd have the speaker up one end of the acoustic space and a microphone up the other. and then the guy on the mixing desk would turn a knob which would feed some of the signal through to that speaker in that room, and then the microphone at the other end of the room would pick it up and bring it back in to the control room of the studio, so you'd get a little bit of reverberation. Some absolutely amazing records were made that way in the 50s and 60s, and actually people are still doing it today. So yeah, I thought I'd do it anyway. So, so the plate reverb was. This video is going to be really quick, and it's going, and I'm just rambling already. The plate reverb was a way to emulate what the rooms were doing. So it's like because sometimes they use springs, great big long springs. If you look in the back of a guitar amp, you'll have a spring reverb. It's basically a spring, you know, and it's the same thing, but instead of a speaker and a mic, there's just it's just a, what do they call it? A transducer, I think. It's just feeding the signal into one end and then bringing it back in the other, and believe it or not, it sounds like that. So that's it with the spring, the plate, sorry, and that's it without. I told you it was my first day back on the job, after Christmas as well. Brain's a bit like an old valve radio, it does take time to warm up and tune in. So next now, this is getting really interesting, let's do away with that. So now we're adding this little beauty which I bought last year. This is Virtual Tape Machines by Slate Digital, and this is fabulous. It's basically emulating a reel-to-reel tape recorder. So you'll notice there's a bit of an analog theme creeping into the production values on this sound, as there generally tends to be on pretty much everything I do. I can't afford the actual original analog equipment because basically it costs a fortune. It takes up loads and loads and loads of room, and it needs loads of maintenance and all kinds of stuff like that. I wish I could, but I can't. So I use digital emulations of them, and these days they do a very good job. I mean, this is incredible. It's quite subtle. That's it with the tape. That's it without. I don't really know whether that's going to come across on a web video transmission, but in here I can hear the difference. Yeah, it's definitely doing something. It's beautiful and I love it. Now the next thing I had in the chain was a compressor, but I decided not to use that after all because I just couldn't hear any actual benefit to the sound, so I've turned that off. We won't talk about that. Then we're going to go back, and I've got another analog delay. So now it's just starting to make it sound a bit more ambient. I love it because that echo repeat you get towards the end starts to almost set up a little bit of a tempo, and I think in the trailer video that particular echo repeat was set to be the same tempo as the music that came in afterwards, but I could be completely wrong about that, so I probably shouldn't have said it in case I am wrong. And finally there was some more EQ. This one's interesting because I've rolled off everything again. It seems a bit pointless to me. That's it with. That's it without. Oh, there is a bit of a difference. And it seems like I've cut a little bit higher than 2K this time. The pickups, as I say, on this guitar are absolutely brutal. And believe me, when you're plugged into a proper guitar amp with a band, it's like, to use an analogy of cars, you know, it's like an AC Cobra or something. It's just absolutely brutal power and acceleration, and you have to be very careful, otherwise you end up skidding off the road and crashing, which I tend to do quite a lot. Anyway, so there we go. That's it. So that is how I went from that to that. Phew. That was a really long-winded explanation, wasn't it? Enjoy RimWorld. Bye-bye.